Welcome back to Let's Take a Walk, brought to you by the Feld Group Institute. In today's episode, we're exploring responsible AI and security with two incredible leaders. You'll hear from Sarah Bird, Microsoft's Chief Product Officer for Responsible AI, and Michael Simmons, VP of Information Security at Ulta Beauty. Together, they dive into how AI can be powerful, safe, and ethical, covering everything from bias and copyright challenges to leadership strategies and preparing the workforce for change. If you're curious about how organizations can build trust in AI while still moving quickly, this conversation is packed with insights. Let's turn it over to Michael.
Frank, I've had the privilege of knowing Sarah for close to 20 years. She may not believe that,
Yeah,
how fast time's gone by. But I
crazy.
got to watch her pursue her doctorate in computer science and also her career just expand, grow, scale, and her really just dominate this domain and learn so much across IBM, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft to where we are today. And John mentioned my natural curiosity in AI, ML. I'm going deep trying to learn. I'm skimming the surface of the ocean compared to the depth of knowledge Sarah has in the years she's put in, which I'm super excited to have her today with you all. And Sarah, can't thank you enough. And we'll keep this easy. I'll throw some questions your way. And like John mentioned, when we get to the end, we'll see if the audience members have any other questions they want to share with you. But, you know, I don't want to misrepresent anything. I'd love for you to share to start just about your journey and background and, why you love this space.
Yeah, that's a super embarrassing intro, so I'll try to live up to it. I'm happy to be here and chatting with you, Michael, more formally. I know we've had many conversations over the years. Let's see, for my journey, as you said, I started out on the research track. So I have a PhD at the intersection of machine learning and systems. Before that was viewed as like a real intersection. People were like, why are you doing both of these things? It doesn't make any sense. And now, obviously, we've seen the huge breakthroughs that have come with AI have been because we had side-by-side engineering and systems innovation to really make the scale work to unlock the power. I was fortunate enough, though, to have some visionary mentors at Microsoft who knew that, like, not only that this was the way the world was going, but also that people that work across the intersections of domains are, some of the most impactful in the long run. And so I joined Microsoft Research for my postdoc here in New York City, where I'm still located. And that was actually a really important experience in my AI journey. I was working on a technology that was an early version of reinforcement learning, which is actually still critical today. And the key idea of reinforcement learning is just that the AI tries different things to learn what works best. So I, might show you a news article recommending a sports story to see if you like sports, or I might choose to show a cooking article because I already know you like cooking, right? And so it helps learn over time by just running little tiny experiments. And so this technology helps you kind of learn decisions. And so we were working with customers to figure out, like, where is this going to be most impactful in the world? Like, who is an early adopter who's going to try it, help us mature the technology, really figure out where this AI is going to shine. And the organizations I started talking to were like, hey, this sounds super cool. Can we use it to, like, automatically interview people? And we're like, maybe yes, but I don't know that you should. And I was, fortunate enough to be sitting with other, sort of luminaries in the field now, like Hannah Wallach and Kate Crawford here at Microsoft. And so my experiences along with theirs and others resulted in us forming the first responsible AI research group at Microsoft. And we have come a long way since then. But the other thing that happened in that time is that I learned that while it's really cool to publish papers on I really liked the innovation journey of taking it all the way through to practice. And so I moved my career over to be a product leader or an engineering leader, actually building out these cutting edge technologies into products. I spent a couple years at Facebook along in that journey. Where I am today and my role today, I work across Microsoft to make sure that we're doing whatever it takes to make AI technology safe and secure and responsible. So my team does everything from identify new risks that we see potentially emerging with AI. So right now, for example, we're working on concerns related to biological weapons, probably something you don't think about every day right now, but we're figuring out, how do we test for this risk? What kind of mitigations do we put in place? We then take all of these things and these ideas and turn them into real tech that people can use. We want to make it easy for everyone to do this. And so we build all of the AI security and safety systems that power AI at Microsoft. And then we also do things like say, hey, new regulations are coming in. How does Microsoft implement that? And then all of these tools and things we build, we also make available to our customers because we want to make it easy for everyone to be successful using AI. So I do a wide range of things these days, from what is basically still like academic research to like applied policy work. And it's a wild ride and a pretty fun journey. I get to work with a lot of amazing folks doing that. And the best part is watching customers be successful every day, changing the world with AI because we've given them tools that help them be competent using it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sarah. And I'm geeking out right now because I remember some of our deep conversations on just game theory against AI. Like you said, like if you ask a question this way, it probably shouldn't tell you, and if you try it this way, it still shouldn't tell you. So it's amazing, kind of that niche space that you get into that we just don't think about on a day-to-day basis. But it's very much aligned where we want to take the conversation today. We've got a number of practicing CIOs, former CIOs, deep technical people on the call, business transformation oriented. There's obviously the innovation going on in the AI space, and it's so deep. But when you talk about responsible AI, would love to hear, how is Microsoft approaching it? You touched on some of it, and what could we take away on this call on how we can, bring some of those lessons you've all learned into our own governance frameworks and our own journeys.
Yeah, lots to say here, obviously. So the way so one thing I love about how Microsoft does this, and one of the reasons I've, chosen to come back and do this work at Microsoft is that Microsoft's leadership, completely understands that nobody wants to use technology that they don't trust, right? It's really going to limit how much you can use it for if it is adding security vulnerabilities into your environment, or if it's producing harmful content that means that you don't trust someone's brand, or you're hurting the brand reputation, or you're able to attack the system and aid in the production of I'll say bioweapons again, since I gave that example, right? Like nobody wants any of that, right? They want to be able to use this technology to change their business, to work more productively, to have better relationships with their users, with their customers. And so Microsoft has been very early and also very often like a very significant investor in responsible AI. And the way that we invest is recognizing that it's always the hardest when you go first. And so as creators of the technology, we have to go figure out how to address these concerns, and we have to innovate a lot to do that. And so a lot of what my team is doing is actually using AI combined with security techniques, combined with other technologies to address these risks. And so it's a significant innovation effort. But once we've made that investment and we figured out the patterns, everyone else can just build on that. You don't have to invest at the same level to be able to achieve this. And so we're very much trying to be the tip of the spear and going first and figuring these out, and then building tools, building best practices, building things that make it easy for everyone else to do that. And so then to kind of um, make it more concrete, to do this well, we have found we have to invest at every step of the life cycle. So we build governance tools to make sure that the right processes are happening, and then we need to build both teams like an AI red team, as well as testing tools to identify new emerging risk. We build at scale testing tools to test our things pre-deployment. We build a defense in-depth mitigation stacks to make sure that you're actually addressing the risk in your development. And then we build monitoring systems so that social listening systems, incident response systems. And so my team looks at every one of these phases of the life cycle and says, what do we need to do across all of these risk dimensions? And then we develop tools that make it easy for the developer, or the security ops team, or the data security team to do what they need to do at that phase of the life cycle. So it's a lot, but super fun, and I get to learn tons of great things. I've learned lots of security from you, Michael. I'm learning lots and lots of security from Microsoft's, security leadership, because we're a powerhouse in that space, which is really great because it'd be very hard if I had to reinvent all of security to make this stuff work. but happy to dive into
Awesome.
any of that more, or talk more about like specific investment or framework recommendations, but that kind of gives you a high level feel.
No, no, that's great, Sarah. And one, you said something about trying to create those repeatable patterns. That's going to resonate really well with this audience here, with the Feld Group. But one thing, I imagine as you put being a first mover in this space, there's probably a lot of pressure to innovate, get out there fast, get to market, dominate, drive the innovation. And then you talk about all these things you've all stood up with governance, test systems, security integration. I imagine many CIOs are facing that delicate balancing act where they may be trying to go faster than you all at Microsoft with the same innovation pressures, and then also trying to make sure they're bringing security along for the ride, safety along for the ride, developers along for the ride. When you think about your journey and that balancing act at Microsoft, what are some of those lessons learned, or how did you sell? Like, we do need to innovate fast, but we got to do it the right way. How do you sell it within Microsoft so that maybe the audience can take away their own lessons on, we got to do all this at the same time. We can't just innovate without all these other considerations.
Yeah, I think on the how do we sell it, one thing that's really great about Microsoft is we have, an amazing set of enterprise customers, I think including, many of the folks on the call here. And enterprise to customers are, great and also challenging because they're very demanding. You know what you want, and you don't want to use technology that, as I said, adds security vulnerabilities. You don't want to use technology that you can't have appropriate governance for. So we're super lucky because our customers demand this of us. And so, when you look at the idea of shipping any product, but let's say an AI product really quickly without doing the security or the privacy or the safety work, most of our customers at Microsoft would tell us it's not done. They would be like, this is a cute prototype, but that's not a real product. Are you kidding me? Right. And so we're really lucky because it's quite easy to justify the why this is important because our customer expectations are so high. But I think, a thing that's changed in the course of my career is like before ChatGPT, I'm going to sort of be flippant and say nobody cared about this. Nobody outside of like the niche academic area, cared about this. But ChatGPT helped raise awareness of both the potential of the technology, but also the risk. So much so that, now I spend a lot of my time talking to press reporters about the risk. I talk to average people. My Uber driver asked me about the safety of AI, right? And that's just a totally different world. And so, I think it's no longer enterprise customers that just expect this. We have regulations, we have consumers that expect it. And so to me, there's not really a trade-off because the product's just not done if you don't get this stuff right. And I think we can dive into more, but there's also a very tight interaction between safety and quality for these products. So if your agent goes off task and does something that's not what you said, like you told it to book plane tickets and instead it empties your bank account, like is that a quality issue or a security issue? Probably both, and you don't want it to happen either way, right? Or if a system hallucinates and gives you totally wrong information, again, quality issue, yes. Safety, security, yes. But undesirable, yes. And so there's also just a very blurry line between what is considered like just low quality behavior and what is a safety or security issue. And so motivating this is really easy. What is challenging is then putting your money where your mouth is and investing well in this. And so the example I love to give that I think shows how Microsoft does this well is obviously it's going to slow you down if you loop in the responsible AI team after you've built the whole product, right? We know that these things have to start at the very beginning when you're in the design phase. And so, for example, at Microsoft, when we get a new AI technology, like from our partners at OpenAI, alongside like Satya and the leadership of the company, the very first people to get access to the technology are AI red team. So they can start figuring out what the risks are and help us have the maximum timeline to co-develop the safety and security needs alongside the product development. And so, bringing it forward, making sure you're concretely investing, making sure you're setting up that work stream for success is critical in like actually making this work.
Got it. Thank you. So a couple of things there. It sounds like one, I think I heard, I mean, you talked about your topmost leader of the organization. So there's definitely buy-in and support to say, we're going to start with the red team and understand the risks and assess. So you put those kind of protocols in place, and it's just part of the playbook out of the gate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the leadership is really important here. Like I now maybe take this as a given, but especially when Microsoft got GPT-4, that was the moment that we knew the technology was really ready for like more wide scale adoption and usage, right? That like we had hit prime time. And this was actually before ChatGPT came out. And so Microsoft's leadership, Satya started doing like weekly meetings to review all of the products, encourage teams to be bolder, to innovate more, but also to make sure we were doing all the right things. So one of the very initial work streams that they started was responsible AI, and they asked me to lead that. And this was something that was reviewed every single week by, Satya and Kevin Scott, our CTO, and Brad Smith, who's our president. And I still work with all of those leaders very regularly when we make key responsible AI decisions or when we need to change like how we want to invest or how we want to implement. And so leadership support is like absolutely essential for actually making this work, both because you need investment, you also need to make real trade-off decisions, and you need like kind of deep expertise, and that expertise needs to feel supported. And so, yeah, I think that, Microsoft's leadership engagement in this has been so like critical for my success, but also just critical for actually making this work.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing it. It's awesome just to hear that you got that buy-in and support to really put that pressure on the org. This is the right way to do it, and this is how we're going to move forward. Pressing on this responsible AI domain, and especially for those that might be in global companies, and you mentioned there's multiple layers to responsible. Would love your perspective and purview. Like responsible probably means different things, culture to culture, country to country, business to business, maybe even within the same business in different countries. What have you seen there in your journey of what the definition of responsible AI is and how different countries, different cultures can influence what's acceptable and what isn't?
Yeah, it's probably one of the hardest problems doing this and being a global company because responsible AI is so contextual. So something that, as you said, like same product, different countries, the right answer might be different. And so, first of all, one of the things we try to do is just, like I try to do around this is just be humble. Like I can't possibly know all the answers. I'm not going to know, what makes sense for a healthcare setting in India in a, rural hospital compared to what makes sense in, New York City for, a customer we work for with media or something, right? And so, what is been critical to our approach is we have centralized our technology stack. So we're just building one thing, really investing in getting that right. It runs on all of Microsoft's products, and so we get to learn a ton from our own usage, right? We have many global products across, medical and gaming and search, and obviously M365 and productivity. But then we also, have customers and like, most of like the Fortune 500 and, across all of these top domains. And so like I work directly with quite a number of these customers to get feedback on what makes sense for them and all of that. And so when we're building our AI platform, we buy, and I'm building the safety and security tools that support it, we're biasing very much towards choice and configurability. So I am trying to give you the right testing tools. I'm trying to give you the right configuration settings so that you can find the settings that make sense for your domain, because I'm not going to know those a priori. And so the platform is very much to be built configurable. For example, and so we work with many, many different model providers. We're trying to make basically every interesting model available on our platform because there's probably the right choice for some application, and then giving you the tools and the information you need to put all the pieces together. But I'm sure there's more that we need to be doing, and we're going to continue to iterate and learn as people give us feedback on what's really needed. And even if the technology doesn't change, which it will. It changes every month. But even if the technology didn't change, as more and more of the world figures out how to apply it, we're going to continue to get more requests for different capabilities and things to support those applications. So I'm just expecting to continue to learn and have to keep, adapting to meet this challenge.
Thank you. And that's interesting what you noted about, creating a platform that in your purview and Microsoft purview is safe, secure, responsible, but also given that configurability to your client base that they may want to go into a little bit of a more gray area because it's just a different view of responsibility for them. I can't imagine those permutations and how you try to meet them
Yeah,
all.
and like obviously the like easy example is like my team to build our the safety systems that are like we have real-time systems that detect things like the agent going off task or the system producing harmful content or a new type of like prompt injection attack coming in. We generate all sorts of harmful content to train our models to detect it, right? So like I want the worst AI model ever that can generate all the awful garbage on the internet so that I can build my defense tools for you all to use, right? And so there's always an application where something makes sense, and that creates challenges because we have to figure out how to release technology in a way that allows that configurability, but also recognizes that for certain things, sometimes the harm outweighs the benefit. And so, we explore different options on how we offer different types of capabilities to like thread that needle. But there is always, an application that probably makes sense for a particular behavior. And so that's why we've seen model providers backing away a little bit from the model just refuses, to do certain things because we found that was super limiting in a lot of enterprise applications. Like medical applications, another example where you would likely have sexual content. You might unfortunately have violent content, right? And so building these configurable controls is a lot of sort of innovation challenge.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. You mentioned the speed of pace of change. I mean, I know the time you've seen, and you mentioned you had mentors and leaders that saw around the corner, saw the future, predicted what we know today. In your shoes, when you look ahead, 3 to 5 years, and for the audience members on the call, what are some of the emerging responsible AI challenges you think we should anticipate, and how should we maybe start preparing our businesses today?
Yeah. Oh man, 3 to 5 years. I don't even know what the world's going to look like then. This industry is moving so fast. It's incredibly challenging for all of us on this call and all of the leaders working not just in the AI space, but also people adopting AI and things to deal with the rate of change of this industry. Like it is just a totally different leadership challenge to be this dynamic and this adaptive. But things that are very much on my mind that are coming up in whatever the time horizon that's this far in front of our face that we can actually see given all of this change. So first of all, Microsoft did every year we put out a work trends index, and the work trends index this year said that I want to say 81% of employers are going to deploy AI agents alongside their traditional workforce, right? And that is both a very interesting technical challenge for us to figure out how to make these digital workers, and this is something we're working on, that can use the human interfaces, that can interface with colleagues and all of that, but also, can be secure and appropriately governed and everything. But also the change management function of that is massive. So we're right now at Microsoft trying to reinvent how we work using AI. And so I am, my engineering team is using more vibe coding tools. My PM team is using amazing tools like V0 to rapidly prototype things. We have AI agents that automatically collect all of the information at the end of like a DRI session to hand it off to the next on-call person so that the DRI can just go to bed and doesn't have to write it up, right? We have agents now that are automatically detecting incidents for us. And so reinventing how everybody works, not just engineering, but everybody works alongside these agents is just going to be a massive challenge for every leader for the world, and ensuring that, people feel comfortable with the technology. They know what it works for, what it doesn't. They know how to trust it, where not to trust it. And so that's like a major one on my mind. Another big thing that's happening this year is like we've started seeing major regulations land. So we just passed two milestones this year for the EU AI Act, but the general purpose AI compliance milestone and the EU AI Act Code of Practice coming into effect this last month was a major one. And so just going from kind of a more free-for-all, unregulated technology to something that the whole world is trying to regulate all at once is going to be a very significant challenge for businesses. And so Microsoft, we're playing a very active role. We've been investing in the space, as I mentioned, for like more than 10 years now. And so we're learning every day, but we've learned a lot of things that don't work. We've learned some things that definitely do work. And so we're, very active in all of these global regulation conversations to try to steer regulation to be things that we know are going to get the right safety and security outcomes and are still going to allow for agility and innovation, because the base technology is changing. And so we don't want to regulate in such a way that we don't get to keep innovating on making the technology itself better. So that's like another, I think, kind of big theme. And I would say then the other is just that like the technology is just getting more powerful. And so I mentioned, kind of for shock value, things like biorisk, but we're definitely starting to see the types of risk we need to consider becoming much more significant. And so we're working on that. We work very closely with partners like OpenAI and even, Google and Anthropic and everything on this. And so those are probably my like top three that where my head's at right now, but there's lots more, and who knows what's what's going to be coming at us. So part of it is also inventing, like working in such a way that whatever comes, we're going to be able to adapt and work on that.
Thank you, Sarah. If I can pull one of those threads, the first one you led with was just, the agents working alongside, your knowledge workers and what that means from the future of work today, tomorrow, et cetera. I think we're all under that pressure. I can't tell you how many magazines I read in trades and news stories about, unemployment, disruption of workforce. The list goes on and on. When you think about, I'm sure you all are under that kind of pressure in Microsoft as well, and you've got an HR team that's thinking about your talent, your workforce. Can you speak to, definitely don't spill the secret sauce, but can you speak to lessons learned, ways we can think about how to engage our HR partners in our own companies, how we think about this emerging trend, education of our team members, maybe calm the noise, let's be pragmatic. Any thoughts there on, the
Yeah.
role of workers and how we can connect?
Yeah, I have lots. I guess maybe what I would say first of all is we all love to talk about the idea of one of the ones that we have kind of demos of are like a digital chief of staff. But the point is like agents that are described as like replacing a whole human function. And I think that that's fun in terms of kind of trying to visualize maybe what's possible here, but it's not reality of what the technology can do today. What the technology can do today is more narrow, but still quite important. And so I mentioned, for example, we have like the sort of on-call agent that just helps summarize, real-time information in an incident. And that actually saves us like meaningful human hours every day and gets a higher quality outcome. But that's not replacing anyone's job. Like the agent is at least not anytime soon going to be replacing like our, senior people that are on call that are making, high stakes decisions for us in real time. We have another agent that, helps you go through like a code base that you're not familiar with and figure out the right place to kind of insert the changes you're trying to make. And that saves my engineering team a ton of time. But again, it's not replacing the whole engineer. And so we've still really consistently seen this pattern that it's not yet about replacing people, it's about allowing them to focus on the most important work, the most differentiated work, and get rid of the work that is rote. And so as long as we are rolling these technologies out, for example, inside of Microsoft, in a way that feels empowering, like, hey, you, PM, you can now make a prototype from your idea in 20 minutes and show your engineering team, and they can build it so much faster, then people are excited to adopt it. And so it's also not an adversarial thing with the workforce. It's like, look, I'm better at my job. Everyone wants to be better at their job. And so we've very much been going down that path, but it's really it's easy maybe for a company like Microsoft, who's really focused on, look, there's always more innovative work we can do. We want to get more and more out of our people. But if your organization is really focused on, we're just going to reduce cost, I think you're missing the point, because the technology enables you to do things you could never do before. You can have a totally different type of product experience. You can have a totally different relationship with your customer. And so it has to, in my opinion, has to go hand in hand with thinking about how do you not just, in essence, try to just optimize your cost only, but how do you actually grow the potential of the business with this technology? And then again, it's a much less scary conversation.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. You mentioned like you need to understand how this technology can help you grow the business. So along those lines, in your experience and the world perspective you've had, would you be willing to share some of the most compelling examples you've seen of AI directly improving top line growth or operational efficiency for companies? Anything that's really caught your attention there?
Yeah, I think we're still in the early days. I think the most exciting things we've seen are where people are releasing just like totally new customer experiences, and that's just changing the relationship with the customers. So a sensitive domain, I work with Commerce Bank, and they released this like AI avatar that allows you to just actually do banking transactions and things by talking to AI. So we had to do a lot of work to make that actually work from like a responsible AI point of view. And Commerce Bank did, really awesome work there. But that has just made like banking so much more accessible for their customers. Like the feedbacks from the pilots have just been super positive, right? And so it changes your relationship with your bank and how much you want to engage and what you might want to do with it. And so looking for opportunities like that, I think, is like a really, really significant kind of thing. And we're seeing a lot of that where people are also using AI to process lots more information so they can make better decisions, they can make better investment decisions and things. Right now, people we've really seen agents and the ability of these models to code has like crossed a critical threshold in the last 6 months also. And so engineer productivity can go way up when you can just, really quickly prototype something, or you can produce many more lines of code so you can start a whole new business line because your engineers are more productive, right? And so just that net capacity, putting it to the next most important thing on your work because your workforce has more capacity, is probably the other pattern we've seen.
Got it. Thanks. It sounds like you're very much seeing what we're seeing as well in the news, customer focus, innovation, and then how do you give our engineers that much more capacity to get the job done? So
Yeah, that's where I
great.
think it is right now. I think we'll see
Okay.
more. Like, we talked to startups and things who are doing wild stuff that's super cool. But yes, I think those kind of just make sense use cases are where people are the most successful in practice right now. And then they get their feet wet and they can start doing the more wild and crazy things because they actually now understand like how to use the technology well in their environment. They grow the internal expertise around it, which is super important.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. One more question, and thank you again for your time, and we'll open it up to the audience members. But when you think about your vantage point at Microsoft, you mentioned the partners you have, OpenAI, and those you work with, and all of us as companies trying to go on our own, AI journey. What do you feel is starting to separate companies that are succeeding with AI versus those that might be struggling? What are they doing differently?
Yeah, the most innovative, like the companies that are succeeding the most, one, the leadership is deeply engaged. It's not something that they've outsourced just to like an AI center of excellence, right? Because it is both transforming how you work, transforming your products, transforming your relationship with your customers. And so these are critical decisions. And, as we talked about earlier, like the risks are real too, right? The risk in terms of security risk, the risk in terms of your risk to your business, like all of those things have to be considered. And so really driven from the top is a major priority. Game changer. Also actually investing in getting some in-house AI talent, right? This technology is still pretty early days, and so it doesn't just work out of the box, right? If you're really gonna innovate with this, you do need at least some of your own in-house expertise. Now, they should not be inventing things from scratch. Like they should be looking at the external world. They should be working with partners, like Microsoft, like whomever. But you do want your own in-house that knows your business domain and understands the technology. And then I think just being willing to experiment and move quickly. I've met with customers who are on the other side of this that I would not, that I would sort of tease a little bit, who are like, here's our 3-year plan to adopt, the AI integrations in Microsoft Office, like Copilot. And if it takes you 3 years to roll out like a pre-built AI program that a lot of the world's using, then you're really going to struggle to do the like even meatier things. And so the ones that are smart about, let's get in there like Commerce Bank, let's pick one thing that we think is going to be game changing, let's do that, and then let's go from there. And so the ones that are really, really willing to experiment and try, I think are the ones that we're just seeing get so much more return on their investment.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. I really appreciate it.